We have a quorum. At this time, let us pray. Heavenly Father God, we're just grateful for this day. We're grateful, Lord, for this opportunity to come and take care of the county's business. God, we're grateful that we all here safe and healthy. We ask you to give us a good return home. Be with the meeting. Give us wisdom, oh God, to discern the conditions of every petition. Guide us and the staff as we're here tonight and give us safe return to our homes. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, it's January, and tonight we'll be nominating a new chairman. So at this time, the floor will be open for any nominations for the chairman for the upcoming year.
If there's no objections, I would like to make a motion that we retain Mr. Reeves as chairman.
Nominating Wayne Reeves. Any other nominations for the committee? If not, we close the nominations. All in favor of Mr. Reeves being the chairman for the next year, raise your hand, please. All opposed? Okay. All right, the next item of business be nominating of a vice chairman for the next year. The chair nominates Arthur DeHay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we close the nominations. All in favor of Mr. DeHay being the vice chair, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? So be it. Congratulations, Mr. Hay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Minutes,
Mr. Chairman, did you recognize my hand?
sir.
Did you recognize my hand on that vote?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Oppose?
You opposed?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't raise your hand, so, okay, no problem. Let me show that, please. Before we go any further, I want to just welcome Miss Juanita Williams tonight. Glad to have her filling in. Our assistant has been in touch with somebody that's got COVID and she's in quarantine. So, Miss Juanita, welcome you. All right, the minutes, everybody's had an opportunity to look at the minutes. Is there any comments or discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, do I hear a motion that we approve the minutes as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion made, is there a second? Second by Mr. Sammy Reeves. Any discussion on that, on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All opposed? None opposed. Let me just stop right here a second. Being the newly elected chairman, I just want to help us get together on things. This will be our last meeting together for a while. We know we got a training session tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And then next Wednesday night, we'll be handling some of the agenda items that got confused and wasn't on this agenda. We'll be doing that next Wednesday night, and that will be virtual. So I just ask everybody, it's going to be a time of trying and patience. Just work with the staff as they try to educate us on what to do and how to do. But it's going to require from each of us a little more activity. It's going to be a delay from, I'll be here with the staff or somewhere with the staff doing the meetings, but y'all going to be at y'all's homes or wherever you're going to be during those times. And it's going to be difficult as it is here at times because of hesitation. If you are in favor of something, I ask you to come forthwith. Don't wait on somebody else. Come forthwith, make your motion. Let's get it out and move on and not try to, because I'm not looking at your eyes. I can't draw it out of you. And I just ask you to cooperate with us. We've all been appointed by a council member to represent our respective districts. And I just ask you to let's be a little more involved, okay? If a motion's been made and you're in agreement with it, second it. Let's don't sit on it waiting on somebody else to do it. We all have equal authority. We have all one vote. That's all we all have is one vote. So I ask you to work with us. and we can make this as smooth as possible. It's gonna be difficult, as it is. But, you know, I'm gonna be after you if we make a motion and nobody says anything, I'm gonna have to encourage you to come on and bring a motion, because we're gonna have to act on whatever's before us. We can't just leave it sitting here. So work with us. It's gonna be tough. The staff is gonna have a hard job trying to get everything together and make everything work, but it's gonna require a lot of patience on everybody's part, the staff with us and us with the staff. Let's make it work, and I think we'll be able to continue to do our responsibility without any hesitation, okay? All right, that being said. All right, various requests, special exception application. Madam Administrator?
Yes, sir. The first item on the agenda, item A, which is a special exception request for a car dealership in an absence of controls district. This is located at, on Dorchester Road. This one is actually one of those items that, due to a public notice issue, will actually appear on the agenda next week. So this will be on the special called BZA meeting, next Wednesday at 6 PM, which again will be virtual.
Okay, anybody have any questions of the administrator? Is the petitioner here tonight?
No, they were notified that it would be shifted to the next agenda.
They're not going to be here?
No,
That's the
item that's on the next week's agenda.
one that was moved over?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, y'all, okay, you got me? I got you. Now I see the yellow mark. Okay, so this one has been moved over till our meeting on the
Third.
3rd. Okay, so that's the one on the order plate, on door range. Barbara Bryant, the very first one.
It is on your agenda. It did not appear in your packets, though.
Is that the one that put a car place out on Doreen? Right? Okay. So the second one is 120 Betty Lane, request for recording studio. Madam Administrator.
Yes, sir. This next item on the agenda is a special exception request for a music recording studio. The property is located at 120 Betty Lane. It's currently a residential lot. There's currently a house on the property. They're seeking special exception approval in order to be able to put a one-booth recording studio on there. So they would construct a structure of about 300 to 400 square feet that they would use during the day as a recording studio. The hours would be about 9 to 5 or by appointment only, Monday through Saturday. Possible one employee, possible expansion to 2 in the future. And in speaking with the applicant, they've indicated that the recording studio will be insulated with soundproof foam so that there won't be any noise outside of the studio. There's really little to no traffic impact anticipated. Sampson Road is adequate to handle this traffic that would come in and out. Betty Lane is a private easement, but it's actually county maintained. It's not maintained by the individuals out there, so it wouldn't place an extra burden on them. Communication businesses within the zoning code and a recording studio would fall under communication businesses. It does require a type B buffer when it's adjacent to residential, so it can be reduced from a 50-foot down to a 25-foot buffer. So what they would need to do, and there's some existing vegetation on the property, they would just have to be aware of that when they went to locate the structure on the property, that they'd have to make sure that they were meeting that 25-foot setback. And then if the existing vegetation wasn't adequate for that type of buffer, they might have to plant or put in a fence. The board is only approving the use right now. And although I don't think any technical review committee would be required, just due to the size of the structure and the minimal alterations to the site, they still would have to ensure compliance with zoning requirements for setbacks and buffers when they apply for their building permit before placing the structure on the lot. So that still would be required. Special exceptions do require those answers to those 30 questions that the applicant did provide that was forwarded on to you for your consideration. And after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts. 1, the communication business uses require a special exception in the absence of controls district. 2, little to no external impacts are anticipated as a result of this business. 3, type B buffers would be required, but it could be reduced to a type A buffer with a 6-foot solid fence. 4, Sampson Road is adequate to handle any anticipated traffic generated by the business, and Betty Lane, although an easement, is maintained by the county. 5, the proposed hours of operation are generally daylight. And 6, the comprehensive future land use map designation does support this business at this location. And so based on these facts, staff recommends approval of the request.
Where, this map, the names on the map, you can't even read the streets, Harley. Where is this exactly located in
The
Ridgewood?
general vicinity, yeah, let me pull that up for you really quick here on the GIS.
Sure, will the screen come down?
No, unfortunately, and I apologize for that, there is an issue, the screen will not pull down. The 2 televisions up here are working, the monitors, all but 2 are working, but the screen will not come down. Okay. So if you're looking at the map, you can see Highway 78 down here, Ridgeville Road, Highway 27 going off here. This is the new industrial park. Let me put the aerials on up this way. And so Sampson Road comes off over here. This is the Berkeley County line. So this is really close to, crossing over into Berkeley County between 78 and 26.
That's the last road in Dorchester County, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right beside the interstate, just before? Okay, I know where it is now.
Yep.
All right. Is the petitioner present?
No, he isn't. I also live on Sampson Road, so I reached out to him. His daughter has a fever. So
Are you ready, are you gonna present his request tonight or not?
yes.
Okay, would you approach the podium, please? Because of the difficulty with the mask, I ask you, I'm gonna ask you to identify yourself. If you would, just raise your mask so you can speak into the mic clearly so the recording can get it, because these masks make everything mumble jumble. If you would, just identify yourself, please.
Okay, my name is Vanetta Ellis, and I also reside on Sampson Road.
Okay. All right, now, are you speaking on behalf of it? Okay. Would
Yes,
you-
yes.
Okay, would you go ahead and tell us why you want this?
Well, I came as well as some other things. I guess the weather is throwing people off tonight. But, speaking to mostly everyone in the community, we feel like this would probably be something positive for the young men in the area. And, he's adamant about I was asking about the musical industry part of the, I guess, building beats and all that stuff. So he gave me a rundown on a lot of stuff, so he seems to be very knowledgeable of what's to come if approved. So I just wanted to come on their behalf because I think it would be something great in our area for the guys to do.
Okay. No. Anybody, in the committee has any questions? Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for or against this project? You can sit down. Thank you. If not, we'll close the public session. Is there a motion from the committee?
Can I ask a question first?
Yes, please.
So this states in here that there's a visual drawing of the studio. Was that omitted, or this is just for approval of use?
This is just for the approval of the use.
Okay, so no,
That will still go through, when they submit for their building permit, that will still go through zoning compliance, building code compliance, all of that.
gotcha. Okay.
Any other comments? Questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, based on the facts and the staff recommendation, I'll make a motion that we approve this.
We got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
We got a second from
Second.
Becky.
By Ms. Becky. All right, any discussion at this time? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. The second one is a special exception request for events venue in the absence of controlled substance. Petitioner is Melissa Marshak. Is she present?
59, 22, 69.
Yes, ma'am.
Or the petition, you here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
You can,
He just wanted me, if he was approved, he wanted me to say thank you. So before I walk out.
Welcome. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is the petitioner present? for this?
Yes.
You want to step forward, please?
You want me to go ahead? Okay. This next item is a,
Madam Administrator, please.
sorry, thank you. This item on the agenda is a special exception request. This is for an events venue. I think the application said it was also for an Airbnb, an events venue, but an Airbnb doesn't require special exception approval. So although it was noted in your application, you'll only be voting on or weighing in on the special events venue tonight. This property is located at 2269 Highway 61, which is at Highway 61 and Old Beach Hill Road. The board, I think, a couple years ago saw a request for, I think there was some like convenience food type of use out here, and I think that got looked at a couple years ago, and so now they're coming back. Same piece of property, a little over 2 acres, looking to be able to do venues using the house that's on the property as well as the existing building and improvements on the site to be able to host weddings or parties. If you look through the application, I think it said it was going to be limited to about 50 people or so. And hours of operation would be no later than 10 p.m., although I'll ask the applicants to clarify on that, because I think at one point in the application, it did say that the events would end at 10. Another one just said that the music would be kind of cut off at 10. So, when you talk, I'll just ask you to clarify on that. And then having sites set up no earlier than 7 a.m. This property is located across from Givans Ferry State Park. If you look at the map, there's Highway 61, and then the road coming off across the street from it is Givens Ferry Road, and you can see the state park just a little bit further up the way there. And then a little bit further up 61, you'll end up crossing over the Edisto River and heading into Colleton County. Both roads, Highway 61, which is a state-maintained arterial, and then Old Beach Hill Road, which is also state-maintained, are able to handle the traffic that would be generated by this use, which would be pretty much weekend only. Parking would be provided on the rear of the site and is accessed off of Old Beach Hill Road. The county did recently approve regulations, new zoning regulations for outdoor special event venues. This is a little bit different. It's not specifically outdoors, so it wouldn't fall under that. But I think some of those conditions that apply to the outdoor venues might be applicable to this one. Again, the hours as presented in the application line up with the hours within the ordinance itself. And then the buffer requirement, I think, is a 50-foot buffer. And I think most of the vegetation on site would be fine. If you do any additional clearing on site, you'd have to maintain 50 feet from the property line. You wouldn't be able to clear any closer than that. And then it may require additional shrubs. I don't know the extent of the vegetation out there. It might be sufficient. There are residential lots in the vicinity. There are 2 that abut the subject property. This type of use does have the potential to impact the adjacent residential lots due to occasional traffic and noise. And there again, those limitations on the hours and the buffer requirements should help to mitigate some of that impact. Again, special exception requests require those 30 questions to be answered, which were included in your packets. And then again, as with the other ones, this one is for the use only. I think they're planning to use the existing improvements on the site, so there wasn't a site plan included with it because there really aren't any improvements proposed at this time. If there are any improvements in the future, then they would go through possibly the technical review committee for review and approval before a building permit would be issued. So after reviewing the request, staff does provide the following facts. 1, that special event venues require a special exception in the absence of controls zoning district. 2, site plan review and approval will be required for approval of the site plan prior to installation and operation. 3, a type B buffer would be required where adjacent to residential uses. 4, the proposed hours of operation would end at 10 p.m. And 5, the comprehensive plan future land use designation supports this business at this location. Therefore, based on these facts, staff recommends approval of the request with the understanding that final site plan review and approval by staff is still required.
Any member have any questions of the administrator? Hearing none. Welcome. Would you introduce yourselves, please?
Good to take off down the mask so you can hear me. I'm Paul Mashik, and this is my wife.
I'm Melissa. Hi.
Let me ask you a question before you say anything. Do y'all live in the next house on the road down on the left or not? Do you live near this property?
That's our property.
Yeah.
The house is our
That's
2269.
what-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I thought so, I just want to make sure, okay. Present your case.
So, just to give a little background, first, thanks for having us out here. We really appreciate your time. When we got married, we just had the hardest time finding a location to do a wedding, like, inexpensively. And one of our dreams was to own a wedding venue that would be value-oriented for people. And Charleston's just such a growing community, and we looked at Dorchester County, they had like 5 wedding venues in the area, and compared to the Charleston area where there's like 150. So we just wanted to focus on something value-oriented, and that was like simple, and that small gatherings of people could just get married, and we just kind of keep it really low-key. Melissa's a photographer, so she's seen a ton of the wedding venues, so we have a lot of experience. I've been a small business owner. We try to support small businesses in all the, like the yard, the cleaning. So we just want to do the right thing, and whatever guidance you could give in terms of however we can get this passed, we're here to support the town. We love the Ridgeville area, though.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All righty. Answer any questions the committee have. Anyone on the committee have a question?
I do.
I have a couple. Are y'all gonna leave the existing building, or y'all gonna build a new building?
We're leaving the existing building. So there's a house, and then there's also a barn structure on the property. So we're renting out the house as an Airbnb, and then the barn we're using for the events, and the yard surrounding. So we're just leaving everything there. There's no additional structures being built.
Okay, what about privacy fence between you and the store next door?
Currently, there's just a chain link fence between us and the convenience store. If that's something that's required, we would be willing to add that if necessary.
Is there a rule about a privacy fence between there or not?
No, generally, a privacy fence is required if you're reducing your buffer depth, but there isn't a mandatory privacy fence in the buffer requirement.
My concern is, my concern with there not being a fence there is, you having a party over there, you're in control of the environment, you're in control of alcohol consumption. You've lived there long enough, I've lived there long enough to know that we got a bad intersection there anyway, traffic-wise. Last thing we need is somebody drinking and driving. Without any kind of blockage between their property and the place selling wine and beer next door, is your guests slipping over there unbeknownst to you and consuming a whole lot more than what y'all are offering, and then we got a problem. With that said, I will make a motion that we approve it with the understanding there will be at least a 6-foot wooden privacy fence between your property and the property of the gas station on the corner. Is that permissible?
I think it's a bit early for a motion. I think you have to open the public hearing.
I didn't understand you.
Public hearing first, before the motion.
Chairman can't make a motion.
You're getting a little heady, so we still have to have public hearing.
Okay, you're right. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. I did. That's what's going on. Okay. Let's hear what everybody else has to say, and then so up to now, I'm in agreement, but then we'll see. Okay.
So would we have to ask for like I just don't want to offend anybody by putting up a fence. Do you run that by the convenience store in advance, just to be like, this is what's going on? I just don't want to
The fence
put
would
up a
be on
huge
your-
fence and then they'll be like, what are you doing?
The fence would be on your property. It would be for your benefit.
Okay.
I think that's all the chairman's
I'm
insinuating.
trying to protect you
Yeah.
from somebody going next door,
Yeah.
getting drunk and coming back on your property
We
to
don't-
your event and creating a problem, but you're getting sued.
Okay, sounds good.
Now, they can still leave and walk around the street, but then they left your property,
True.
okay?
One more clarification. So there's a convenience store to the left of us, and then there's a liquor store across the street. Do we need two fences, or just the one next door?
Adjoins you now, that hadn't been voted on, hadn't been passed yet, but that would be my recommendation,
Okay.
is to see a fence between you and that store, because like I said, now they can just walk right over there, and I just think that would be a problem.
Understood.
Okay, all right, anybody else have any comments or questions?
You said there's already an existing chain link fence between y'all and the convenience store next door?
There's a chain link fence between the convenience store, and then in the front, there's a hog wire fence with metal poles. So it's all completely fenced as it is.
Okay.
Even the driveway has a big, one of those big metal.
Well, and the privacy fence would prevent you if somebody that was just being difficult at that store saw somebody at your party and they starting to yell across
Sure.
from one place to another, creating a disturbance for you. Now you got to call the law where you don't want to.
Yeah.
So,
Understood.
okay, anybody else have any
I have
questions?
a question.
Glenn?
You mentioned pole barn in the house, but there's mention of this tool shed on the property,
Yes.
which is a pretty big tool shed, 420 square feet.
It
Are you
is.
planning on using that as a part of?
Currently, no, it's just a tool shed as it is. There is like a little overhang on it, with, the overhang has like a deck area underneath, which we would use that. People could access that, but the tool shed will be locked up
Gotcha.
currently as well.
It still has to go back to y'all for further review of all
We'll just evaluate the site plan to ensure buffer compliance and parking, yeah.
anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here wish to speak for or against this petition? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing to be closed at this time. I pass the chairman to the vice chairman so I can make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the petition with the addition of at least a 6-foot privacy fence on the property line between you and the store on the corner. Carter's, I think. I don't know what they're calling it, but Carter's owns it. Second by Mr. Reeves. Any other further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, you know, in thinking this through, bringing your point of view to table, basically for the betterment of their operation, having some hindsight, if there's already structure that maintains somewhat of a tight boundary, do you think that instead of supplementing with another fence, that there could be something encouraged with more of a heavy planted buffer? Do you think that would suffice, instead of such a hard structure?
I'm concerned
Would that
because it's
suffice
over
you?
there in alcohol at the gas station.
No, I
that a
certainly
visitor
understand.
there Look over at their party, see somebody there and they decide to make a nuisance of themselves, they got an issue. So if they can't see over there, they've done everything they can do and that covers them down the road for liability. So that's my viewpoint.
That's fine. I just wanted to try and, you know, appeal to any other kind of options instead of exactly having a
Well,
hard
they have an
structure.
option if they want to back the fence away and then plant a tree buffer and so for aesthetic looks. I mean, you can do what you want to, but I'm just saying we need some type of border between you and that property, and you probably want that anyway. So, okay. Anybody else have any comment? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, you're gonna second it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Call for the question.
We have a motion with that has been seconded. All in favor, and please vote by raising your right hand. All opposed? We have one opposed. The motion passes.
Okay, so passes.
Thank you. I'll pass the gavel back.
All right, the next one is,
If I could interrupt real quick, if we have ruled on your request, please feel free to leave. You know, just to try and maintain numbers and, we've got several more items on the agenda. So, but we thank you for coming. Yes.
all right, the next item is Campbell Thicket Road variance to allow accessory structure in the front yard. Madam Administrator?
Yes, sir. This is a piece of property off of Campbell Thicket Road. It's about 18 and a half acres. It was recently subdivided, it was larger than that. They pulled a couple of parcels out right up along Campbell Thicket out. And let's see if I can show you on the map here. This is the subject property here, and then there were 3 lots pulled out up here, maintaining access into the site by this jog driveway back here. So they're preparing to build a house on the lot and an accessory structure, a detached garage. And they would like to be able to put the detached garage in front of the primary structure on the lot. Currently, the zoning code requires that all detached accessory structures sit behind the primary dwelling. They cannot sit in the front yard. However, in this instance, these is about 600 feet off of Campbell Thicket Road. It has a couple lots in front of it, and it has this jog driveway. And then you'll also see on the site, there's a couple ponds in the septic field, both to the side, which somewhat limit your ability to construct on the lot. And this particular section of the zoning code is generally for more urban or suburban settings where you have these smaller lots where the buildings are pulled up closer to the street and you're trying to maintain that, that front porch or that front building wall as you drive down the street and not have a whole bunch of accessory structures in the front yard. But this is a much larger, more rural piece of property. As you can see on the aerial image, there really isn't anything else out around there. There's other ag fields, other large pieces of property before coming in over here and getting into a small residential cluster. Let's see here. With a variance, you do have to answer those 4 state-maintained questions. Those were provided on the application that was forwarded to you for your consideration. And then after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts. 1, that the lot in question is over 18 acres. It is set back from the street by more than 600 feet. And the property is zoned absence of controls, is not located within a subdivision. 2, other developed properties in the area are much smaller than the subject property, particularly the residential lots. 3, the existing site constraints combined with the ordinance, they don't render the property unusable, but they are unreasonably restrictive given the size, location, and layout of the lot. And 4, the authorization of the variance to allow the placement of a detached garage in front of the main residence would not be detrimental to adjacent properties. So based on these facts, staff finds that the application meets the requirements for a variance and therefore recommends approval of the request.
Any questions of the staff? Are the petitioners present? Would you step forward, please?
Good evening.
I have omitted doing something before, so I asked both of you, if you're going to testify, to raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, would you state your names, please?
Todd Vollertson.
Cindy Vallertson.
Okay, sir, please, present your case.
So we are building on a piece of property that we bought that was 24 and a half acres. We have subdivided, currently have sold one of the lots. We're waiting on just kind of development before we sell the other 2. It is a very rural area. The layout that we have drawn up, there are 2 ponds there with some live oaks that we really do not want to disturb. And with the way the septic field has already been approved, and not trying to cut into the woodland any more than we already have, because that is an agricultural wooded lot. That barn sitting where it is, or shop, or whatever you call it, it's a hobby shop, place to park the Mustang, whatever, tractor, 4-wheeler. That is a commercial grade red barn or red beam building that we purchased. We got very lucky and purchased. It's the same kind of commercial building that your county buildings are built in. It's not a cheap barn per se. It is professionally built, professionally erected. And as said, nobody's going to see that except us or people pulling in. The only person that would come close to it are the Burkheads, which we sold that 2.3 acre lot. William Burkhead is here. He's actually putting this very similar building on his property, and the back of our barns are going to wave at each other. I mean, there's nobody is going to see it.
Okay. Any members of the board have any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak for or against this project? No one. Public hearing on this session is closed. Members of the committee, now entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as written.
Made by Mr. DeHay. Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Mr. Dixon. All right, any discussion?
Mr. Dwight.
Any discussion? I have one question for you. Why did you make your road straight? When I looked at this the other day, I said, wonder why you didn't make it straight? Is that so your lots balanced out on equal?
The biggest thing is we wanted it broken up and not just square. We wanted it to have some character when people pull in. And that driveway has already been put in, and it's actually a 700-foot long driveway with a ditch along it. We just lined the ditch with riprap. It's a very scenic look coming back to it.
My family owned that property in the 50s.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. We have a motion to approve this petition. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you, sir. You have been approved. Thank you. You're welcome to leave because of whatever reason, or you can stay, but it's up to you. All right, the next one is 1284 Ridge Road, special exemption request for a child care facility. Madam Administrator?
Yes, sir. This next request is a special exception request for a child care facility in the Absence of Controls District. This is located at 1284 Ridge Road. There's an existing residence on the property. The proposal involves removing the existing residence and constructing a new facility to house a daycare. The property, I think, is about 5 acres. The daycare would support about a little under 90 children, 10 employees. The hours are not specified in the application, but they're generally Monday through Friday during work hours. Ridge Road is a state-maintained major collector. It is able to handle the traffic generated on the site. Parking is shown on the proposed site plan to the rear of the main daycare facility building. You can also see on the site plan here that they have the outdoor play area over here, and this is Ridge Road right here. There's a little stretch of wetlands on the property right here, so only the front portion would be developed. The rear, I believe, would remain wooded. Child care facilities are, although not generally permitted in residential zoning districts, are considered a lower intensity use, and they're allowed within office and institutional zoning districts. The AC district is not necessarily a residential zoning district, and it is intended to allow for commercial uses where appropriate. OI districts permit orderly transition between residential, non-residential areas with quiet, compatible, low-impact professional office and institutional uses, and permit the location of needed community facilities to support those permitted uses. They generally appear in residential neighborhoods that are transitioning to commercial. You see them where they're supporting growing population, but that's not the case in this area. Child care facilities require a type A buffer against residential uses. I believe their buffers are shown on the site plan. We would need further elaboration, however, just to describe the plantings that would be required. Technical review committee review and approval still would be required before going forward with the plans. The board is only evaluating the use at this time, and any comments made or requirements placed on an approval would be addressed during the TRC site plan review process. Let's see here. This, again, is a special exception request, does have those 30 questions that were provided by the applicant and forwarded to you for your consideration. And so after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts. Is one, the child care facilities require a special exception in the absence of controls zoning district. 2, site plan review and approval would be required for approval of the site plan prior to installation and operation. And 3, a type A buffer would be required where adjacent to residential uses. 4, the proposed hours of operation would be Monday through Friday during work hours. 5, this site is in an established residential community. And while this proposed use supports residential areas, it is generally not allowed within a residential neighborhood. 7, the comprehensive plan future land use designation supports the business at this location. However, based on these facts, staff recommends denial of the request. And then we also received 2 comments online to be read during the public hearing. Those were provided to you in advance of the meeting, but I will read them for the public records. The first one came in from Robert Townsend, who resides at 1283 Ridge Road. And his comment was he is objecting to this property being approved for a daycare center. This is a residential/agricultural area. The second public comment that we received came from Judy Reed, who lives at 1301 Ridge Road. And her comment was, I strongly contest this. It will be a detriment to the rural, residential, and agricultural lifestyle of the area.
Where exactly on Ridge Road? What's the first cross? I got that light up there. It's got me a glare on the screen.
Yeah, I can pull it up for you on the GIS real quick.
Very well.
Let's see here.
This is beyond Horseford.
Yeah, so if you're out here, you've got Givens Ferry Road, right where it ends at Wire Road. You come in on Ridge Road here. So it's in this community over here, just before you get over to, is this Eagle Drive over here, I think? I think this is Eagle. Yeah, that's Eagle Drive. So it's between Eagle and Wire Road off of Ridge Road. So it's over closer towards the Edisto.
Is that close to the, where that Indian,
Yes, it is. It's close. It's over right near the Indian.
that cross street is the one that goes into the reservation, right?
Yes, sir, Eagle.
Okay, that's what. Okay. Anyone else have any questions of the administrator?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask staff, haven't this applicant came before this board before with this daycare center?
Not under my tenure. I'm not aware of it.
Okay. But they were in the process, right? Did they come through this board before? Did you, anybody remember?
I can't recall.
Okay. Well, we'll ask them when we get to the staff. When we get.
I do have a question. Where's the closest business to this? I guess down by Givens Ferry Road?
Yeah, I think it would be up Ridge Road. There is a small, I mean, I think this is a substation back here, but as far as, I'm not entirely sure where the closest commercial business would be out in this general area. I know as you go further up Ridge Road in towards Ridgeville, you start getting towards Showadenko over here.
Right.
That's one of those old sections where a lot of families have got more than one house on a piece of property and everybody's
Yeah.
on top of each other and well surrounded.
That's what I was thinking. I just didn't know if there's a business, close by, for precedence type sake.
Yeah, but we got the comprehensive plan. They're supporting this though. They support a business in this location. So I'm a little lost until they get up to the podium. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I didn't understand you, Mr.
I said the comprehensive plan, they support this business being there. According to our future comprehensive plan, they support this.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any other comment? These masks make it difficult.
I understand. I had that problem today in Columbia.
And these plastic, I got 4 sheets of plastic.
Yeah, coming down this way.
We have to talk behind it.
Okay, let's move on.
The petitioner present, would you come forward, please? Everybody that's going to testify, I ask you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Would you state your name in the mic, please?
My name is Rhonda Simmons.
Ask just so they can get a clear.
My name is Rhonda Simmons.
Ms. Simmons.
Okay.
I'm James Simmons.
My name is Edward Gwynn.
Okay. All right. Who's going to speak first?
I currently run a facility in Somerville called Little Fish Preschool Academy. If you approve this, would actually be our second location. I would honestly tell you, I think the community needs a preschool that's kind of closer in, because we have nothing between St. George and Somerville.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm the civil engineer that prepared the land plan, and I guess I'd rather you guys ask me questions just to let y'all direct your concerns, but I'm willing to answer whatever questions you have.
Okay.
Now, just,
Anything else? Okay.
if I may, if I can ask
Now
a
you can
question.
answer it, yeah.
You're planning on tearing down the existing building and then building a new building, is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You're planning on tearing down the existing building and building a new building, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I just wanted to be sure that I had my mind straight. Thank you.
How many students do you plan to have?
Can you say that again, please?
How many students do you plan to provide?
We
services?
we won't have over 89 kids in the building. I wanted to keep it lower. Normally, I'm licensed now for 89. My comfort number is 70 for emergencies. Like right before COVID hit, we had like 68, and I hadn't gone over 68. But I say 79, I'm at 72 and not go over 89, because you always get an emergency case where you get some kids in foster care that needs emergency care for a little while.
So, given that, I guess this, at this point, kind of seems a little bit before its time, as Mr. Dwight had mentioned, something of this nature does play into the future land use. Kind of what was the genesis and your thought process in wanting to make this development in such a rural area? I guess with still having some unknowns as the development, or, I mean, have you done a business model and a study and things of that nature? I mean, because I imagine this is a very costly endeavor, to build this kind of facility, to hire the engineer. I mean, we're probably talking not just tens, but hundreds of thousands of dollars for something like this. And, given that the county doesn't exactly see that it fits right now, or may not be exactly applicable, that's what we want to hear from you as to why should we grant this?
Well,
At least that's my thought sitting here, because I'm not getting a lot of feedback, and I know personally, I mean, I've read some of the responses, but, we need to know your story. Why does this place need this development?
okay, for one, I'm going to tell you that's a property that we stayed on. We just recently moved off of it, for one. My children are from Dorchester County. That county needs early childhood like yesterday.
Sure.
That's a county that I would call a CDEP county. Those kids do not get the same care that the kids in Somerville get because there's nothing out there.
I
And
understand.
the building that I'm in, honestly, I always wanted to open in Ridgeville.
Okay.
I just had the opportunity that was a blessing to open in Somerville.
Sure.
My heart is with Ridgeville kids, with the Indian reservation there, and the fact that a lot of people struggle financially. We are actually really good to where we can open it, and there's other programs like the 4K program that actually helps budget and fund that. Because that is a CDEP community. You have the food program that actually those kids in that area will automatically qualify for. So the funding wise, I'm not really worried about it at all. And then you have the early Head Start that actually is looking for a building just in that community just to operate and actually pour money into, and there is no building, there's nothing. So honestly, I'm really passionate about that community because, again, that is a community that I raised my 4 kids in.
Sure.
And there are kids out there that just doesn't have the opportunity for a good, solid start, and you have to start when they're young.
Absolutely. No, and that was some of the feedback that I would like to know, because, I mean, I know that area very well, and you're correct. It is very expansive and a bit desolate. I mean, you don't really have any modern conveniences out there, even with much of a form and shape of a gas station. You go to Ridgeville, I mean, it's out there, and obviously, that's why we're wanting to understand more about what you're doing, So thank you for that.
Welcome. Putting this facility there, does it cause a hardship on any of your neighbors as far as driveways or ingress, egress?
No, sir. Honestly, it's not. The neighbor that's actually, if you're actually coming into the property off of Ridge Road to the left, I don't know as well because they just recently moved there and they're kind of like loners, but the neighbor to the right of us actually, Mr. Snipes is like, couldn't even believe that I even wanted to do that. Open up a preschool. Like I said, we're not going to be operating late at night or anything at all. So they're kind of like all for it. The people on the left side, like I said, they're fairly new to us and we don't know them that well to actually ask, but we just speak for the time that we've been there, that they've been there. So I don't think it'll be a problem with any of the neighbors at all.
Anyone else have any questions?
Were any alternative sites considered, or is this because you had this property? Were any alternative sites considered, or was this,
Where?
were there any?
He just wanted to know, were any alternative
Was
sites
this the
considered?
primary out of several considerations?
Okay, I actually have an inner ear disease, so it's hard for me to actually not see your mouths during this pandemic. And he's going to tell me exactly what you say and slow it down so I can understand him.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry.
first choice?
Actually, Ridgeville was actually my first choice. Ridgeville was my choice before Somerville. It's just that Somerville kind of like opened up to me and ended up being a blessing because I had the opportunity to actually start there. Because I actually started childcare 4 years before I actually opened my own center. So Ridgeville it just has to be there or in that area because that's what I'm passionate about because those kids need help.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a brief comment on the site plan.
Sure, please.
We have provided the same buffers against the residential as you would normally need. And this was in working with staff to help, plan this in a way that minimizes the impact on the area. We've pulled the building towards the street and placed the parking behind it. And then we're maintaining all of the wetlands on the site. About 2/3 of the property is wetlands.
Yep.
So we're maintaining those wetlands.
And if I, some of these pictures and obviously the images we have right now are a little bit distorted, but is this directly, I guess, adjacent to Powerhouse Road, or is there another property?
There's at least one property between.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Powerhouse Road.
That's fine.
Yeah, I see on the map, there's exactly one property. It must
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
would you name him, Mr. Snipes? Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that.
Mr.
We did work with staff.
Does anyone else here wish to speak for or against this project? Please step forward. Raise your right hand, please, sir. You solemnly swear that the evidence you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name for it, please.
Yeah, my name is Robert Townsend. I live directly across. And this is just not appropriate for the neighborhood. It's a 5,700 square foot facility. And it doesn't really complement the surrounding houses at all. It would dwarf everything around it. And being a commercial building with probably a playground, a parking lot, and 92 screaming children all day, I don't think it would be appropriate. And the lot, their lot, there's nothing personal. I like it. But I don't see how they could fit that all in the lot that's not in the wetlands. You can't do anything to the wetlands, even if they brought it out to the edge of the road. I don't see where there would be adequate room for all the auxiliary things they would have, parking and a playground and whatever. I just don't think the time is right for that area to, even though it's a transition, maybe, it's not there yet. And I don't know if it will be in my lifetime or not. Well, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but it's just, I just don't think it's right.
Thanks, sir. Any questions of this petition?
Mr. Chairman, let me make a correction. I thought she said she's only going to have a few kids. She's not going to have 90 kids there.
That's what it's going to be licensed for.
Excuse me?
That's what it's supposed to be licensed for.
But she's not having 90 kids.
Well.
And also the comprehensive plan, it supports that.
I can't hear you.
The comprehensive plan supports that, be on that location, in that area. Dorchester County Comprehensive Plan.
I can appreciate the comprehensive plan would approve it, but I don't think now's the time. The area out there is just a residential.
I certainly understand.
And it's just, and I never see any children out there either to support it.
There's plenty out there.
It's plenty of money. Sir, as a, let me say, may I say something?
Yes, sir.
As a retired educator, we need that in that end, on that end of the county. We definitely need that. Those kids are starving. So, you may not seem so in your generation, but they're starving for that.
No. Yeah, I just never see anybody out playing or screaming or shouting what kids do. So, you know.
Well, they're in compliance. They're working with the staff. They're trying to get the buffers, and this young man had just said he's working with them with the plans and stuff, and they have a site plan coming. So I seems to think that, Mr. Chairman, I'm for that because they need it. That's the problem now in the world.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let me just say something before, you may be seated. Anyone else here wish to make comment? In this public session, let me just say that this is a unique request for a very established residential area. This neighborhood is one of the oldest in Dorchester County. That neighborhood's been there forever and ever and ever, and there's a lot of people there. And yes, there are a lot of kids there. Go down to the little church on Powderhorn and Sunday morning, and you'll see a herd of them back there, I promise you.
Y'all agree?
I live very close to this piece of property. I travel that road often. Is there a tremendous need? Yes. But does that need, and this is our responsibility, does that need worthy of us overpowering the legal structure that we have in place for the organizational of the growth of the county when there is a lot of open land available that's not directly in that neighborhood? Now, I understand she owns the property, I understand, and I'm not saying how I'm gonna vote for or against. I'm just saying, I want the board to understand that when we go against the staff's recommendation, and the staff's recommendation is that it be denied because it's putting a very large public, building in the middle of a residential area. And like this gentleman said, it's gonna be the biggest thing on, not only that area, on all of Ridge Road, there's nothing else there until you get down to Sharedinka. So when you make your motion, I just want you to please be conscious of the fact that we're in a tough spot. I feel for it. I mean, do we need a child care out there? Absolutely. But like Arthur said, is this before it's time, the right building, the right facility with the right attitude, but the wrong location? And that's what we need to weigh. And I encourage you to just weigh that as we make these decisions, because we're gonna end up getting ourselves in a loop that we bent the rule here, we didn't bend the rule there, and we're trying to establish an organized growth pattern in all of Dorchester County. And the Ridgeville area now is, like we see a lot of petitions tonight for Ridgeville, we're gonna get more and more of it because Ridgeville is well, they're going, Somerville's full. So are we gonna maintain the pattern that's there, or we're gonna let the need overrule that pattern? And that's the decision we're gonna have to make as a body. So just keep that in mind, because when we go against the recommendations of the staff, because it doesn't confer with the plan as the county has laid forth for the growth of that area, then we need to look at that. And that's all I ask. So at that time, any other comment, questions, anybody? And we declare the public hearing closed. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend approval of the daycare based on the fact that, with my knowledge of the area, knowing that there's children out there and the need is there, as a staff member sitting on this board, this is what we're here for. We're here to make a decision that could potentially override. Everything's moving that direction. We're full. Somerville's full. There are children out there that need the help. They need someplace to go. I did daycare myself, being a mother myself. Just because they're in a rural area doesn't mean they shouldn't be allotted the same stuff that the rest of the children are here in Somerville. So for all of that, I don't know how legal that is, but that is the reason why I am going to recommend approval of a daycare on that site.
Can I have a motion for approval? Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second. Now we'll have discussion.
You know, I have to say, I agree with the need out there, if there is a need. But I can't help but see that this is in the middle of or I can't help but think that there might be a better spot for this. And it's in the middle of a very residential area, very well established, and there's gonna be an 8,100 square foot facility here, right 25 feet off the road, which is going to set a precedence, I think, is going to stand out.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, from the engineer, could we have clarification? What's the square footage of the building?
He's correct, it's 8,100 square feet.
The footprint of the building is 8,100 square feet.
Yes, sir, it's a single story, 8,100 square feet. The eaves of the building are about 12 feet high, and it goes up to a peak. It's about 24 feet high. And I guess it's a square, and so all of the edges are 12, and then there's a center peak.
So that's my hesitation, being in favor of this, I would say.
I think my 2 cents that I have to add to this is that if you look around, you see corporations that are not disadvantaged. You see a Dollar General getting put up on every corner, anywhere you look. And they're put in the middle of nowhere because they hedge their bets that it's the middle of somewhere someday. We've also, as this board, sat up here and spoke up for landowners that have wanted to do something good and contributable to either themselves or the community. And we have all agreed and been in agreement that as long as we can find the justifiable means to fight for them, we will. Now, this definitely does seem a bit cutting edge, and definitely on the leading edge, but where do most businesses gain an advantage? When they have that advantage, when they are the leading edge. Now, it's my 2 cents that, this venture deserves an opportunity. And I'll leave it at that.
Any other discussion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as a retired educator, I'm always for kids progressing and seeing them learning something, goals, and achieving. So I'm for it.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Reed?
I don't have much to say about it. I think we'll get staff recommendation on minutes tonight before. But I do think it's a need for it out there. Any other discussion? My concern and only concern is that we're in a tough spot because their need is tremendous. And there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of open acres all around that piece of property. Right across the street, Dickie Hughes just died. All of his farm, all that hayfield, all that's available. On the other side of the road, Justin Hughes is open, all that's available. Right down the road past, just a little ways up on the right, farmland, open and available. I understand you own the property, and that would certainly, if I owned it, I would say, yeah, I want to use my property first, and I totally agree. And we have a need out there. There's always been a need out there for more education. And I want to compliment you on having the ambition and the integrity that you have to pursue such a project for such a worthy cause. But how about the little people that live around that property that have no voice, they're not here for whatever reason, they don't understand what's going on, we're gonna put an 81 to 8,200 square foot building right beside their house.
So because this is going to be something that is more charitable and equitable to probably a community than when we have to sit up here to a packed house to approve dirt pits. And I'm in the dirt business. I don't own pits, but I'm in that industry. Think of the level of justice there. of what we do.
And I am, and I'm saying we're in a tough spot, but I'm saying, this board, before I came on it, approved my neighbor to open a shop up next door to me. Being a good neighbor, I didn't voice my opinion. I'm telling you right now, if I could go back, I'd run him right out of town. Because once you do it, it's a business, and they may own it today, and somebody else own it tomorrow. It'd be a nightmare, and you created a nightmare for the neighborhood. And that's what we have to look at, is the longevity. And I'm telling you, I got a business right beside me, and I hear an air compressor run 24 hours a day. Now, this is not that type of business, I understand that, but at the same time, we're trying to place something that doesn't fit a square building in a round hole. Yes, we need it. Yes, I want it. But I would encourage you to find another piece of property and do the same thing. It's available out there. There's property available out there, right there on the Ridge Road. Right down the street from you is an old trailer park that's abandoned. 8.5 acres. And it was up for sale not too very long ago, and did not sell. So I mean, this property, if there was no property available, and that was the only option, then I would be more in lean to say absolutely, because I want to encourage this, because those kids need it. I can't argue that and won't argue that, but I'm just concerned about the precedent that we're setting where there is other property available, and it's available all around. There's more property available, and through her own testimony, she's not seeked any other property. She owns this property, so this is what she's went forward with. And you said it yourself, too soon. Well, it's not too soon because it should have already been done, but I just think the location should have been more sought. That's my opinion, and we all got an opinion.
Well, my comment, to clarify that comment, I wasn't pulling the passion and I wasn't pulling the passion and the more of the logistics behind it as to why this site. And, her further explanation of the community need and things is what clarified that. And she, depending upon where on that bell curve being ahead, whether it's just too far ahead or might be falling in line, that's the unknown, but.
Any further questions? Any further comments? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3. All opposed? 1, 2, 3. Motion fails for lack of majority.
You need a new motion.
Pardon?
You take a new motion.
Yes, I will.
Right now, we have no action on the item.
Dispose of it. Do I hear a motion that we deny the request? Or any other motion, period? If not, it stays on the agenda. It's resolved.
I'll make a motion that we deny the request because, based on the facts presented, and it does not fit in with any of the surrounding area. There's no precedent set in the surrounding area for this.
And motion's made that we deny the request. Is it second? Second by Mr. Sammy Reeves. Any comments?
So ultimately, here's my question. They put in, the sand pit is a very valid thing. If somebody put in a sand pit, we can't prevent it. So is this the same situation, as a sand mine? It's just vertical versus, in the ground. A sand mine is a very popular, controversial thing here. And we've shown that we can't really prevent that because precedence has been set, and but it still produces a lot of noise, a lot of commotion for the surrounding area. So I guess my question is this any different? Because it's vertical. I don't know if staff can help.
Yeah,
determine the
well, when you're
differences here.
considering special exceptions, it's the same for all of them that you're looking at. You have the same criteria, the same requirements, the same abilities. The only, one of the differences with sand mines is, yes, there can be immediate, significant impacts for it, but it's not a long-term use. There's always a specific lifespan for a sand mine. After that, it's reclaimed and either just becomes, a pond, or it becomes, wildland, or it ends up becoming a residential development at some point. Whereas when you're talking about a commercial building, that building is there, it'll stay, have a much longer lasting impact.
Okay. I think that explains it for me. The answer is kind of the difference of why it is different, because this will live on versus, you know, a sand pit will turn into a pond and, you know, be, I guess, quiet and not an impact
Okay.
for residential.
Let me speak not on your motion, but let me speak to the options that we have. We can table it, send it back to the administrator, let them revamp their plan to maybe not be as
Larger
and
building?
different as a neighborhood.
Right.
To, you know, that size facility, that tall, big, giant facility there is going to be, totally change the whole neighborhood forever.
It will.
This way it gives them an opportunity, if they so choose, to go back without them having to go through the whole process again. And they can we can bring it back up in the next meeting for further consideration, because we're clearly divided. It's not fair to the petitioner to just say absolutely no on an even vote. I would like to see them given more opportunity to revise their plan to where your facility fits into the neighborhood. I don't think it's the daycare fact, but the size of your facility versus the type of neighborhood you're putting it in. And in the meantime, the Lord will bless you, and you may find a piece of property right down the street that suits you better. I don't know. But that's an option we have. Glenn, if someone wants to make a motion that we table it, that takes precedent over your motion.
That would be
Or he
fine.
can withdraw his motion. Or he can withdraw
Yeah,
his
let
motion.
me finish. Or you can withdraw your motion, and we'll entertain another motion to table. We can just table, and we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think I'd rather withdraw it in this case because, but you know, I'm torn on it. I don't think it fits in, but at the same time, if we can have a second opportunity, I would be willing to withdraw.
All right, will you withdraw your second?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask you something? They would not have to pay the $250 again if you do that, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, they don't have to go back through the whole hoop, they just need to get with the administrator.
we'll table it.
And you can adjust your plan to be more suitable, that the committee would be more in favor, because you've heard what our objections are. We've heard your heart, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But trying to give you an opportunity, that big a building is just not gonna get by this committee the way it is, the raised percentage. You may change some things and make us happier with you that we allow it. It may not. I don't know how we'll vote, but it depends up to you. At least you get an opportunity without having to go through everything all over again. So, all right, being said, I hear a motion, we table it.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Motion made to table it.
I second it.
Second. All in favor of tabling the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed? All in favor, one opposed, Mr. Reed opposed. Okay, do you understand what we just did?
5 and 1.
Thank you.
It's 5 and 1.
Huh?
5 and 1. 5 or 4.
That's what I said, wasn't it? Yeah, 5 and 1. Okay. All right, the next.
Thank you so much. No, thank you.
Thank y'all for coming.
Yes, please.
What's the procedure for that?
They,
They have to go back to the administrator with a.
He's got to call a number in.
If they show choose, or they just choose to bring the same
He's
one
got to
back.
call a number in.
Do that and take the chances.
I got time to run the bathroom.
And adapt into where staff will be in favor, hopefully, or not, or us. Or y'all as a neighborhood can come up with more people and say no. And we'll listen,
Yeah, let's do that.
we're open to whatever.
That's good.
Okay?
What's the timetable on deciding?
It'll be next meeting in 30 days, next third Wednesday night and next month. Right?
Yeah, February 24th is the next meeting.
Okay? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
81,
Mr. Chairman, can we get a recess?
yes, let's take a 5
Yeah.
minute recess.
How about that?
yep, I can do that too.
Yeah, you can go ahead and get him.
That's all right, you're trying to get
I got him,
trying to get through it.
No, what it is,
Hello,
it's right
you've
here.
reached Sean Smith at Site Enhancement Services. I'm currently unavailable.
No,
Please leave your name, number.
It's the mouth. You can't see it.
Yeah, you can't, yeah. See, I got hearing aids, but I still can't hear.
A lot of it is the mouth, you know,
Yeah.
speaking. So, yeah,
the
that's
brain-
tough.
The brain reads the lips.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
the brain, what little bit of brain I got.
Yeah, my fault. You know, God, that's a tough one. I agree. I totally agree. It's just the area is just not to talk about.
Hello, this is Sean.
Hello, Mr. Sean.
Yes.
We have you on with the committee board, BZA. This is Mike from IT.
Yes, sir.
They're in a short recess, but they will pick back up here shortly. I just wanted to get you connected.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. I'm also watching on YouTube.
All right, Robert Rule says it's done.
Hold on 1 second.
The attorney says we have to make another motion to get it off. I disagree with that. But that's what, remember that meeting we had? That was what he said.
The volume up. Can you hear me, Mr. Sean?
Yes, sir.
It should quiet down a little bit.
Yeah. No worries. Like I said, I'm just watching it on YouTube too. So.
We can't get rid of it. I can't handle mice. All right, well, reconvene.
Yes.
8515 Dorchester Road. Variance to exceed the maximum wall sign allowance.
Yes, sir. This item is a variance. This is for a property that's under development right now for Mavis Tire, and they are applying for a variance to allow a larger facade sign on the side of the building. I think their application, when they provided it, well, let me get back into it. The site is 8511 Dorchester Road, which is further down in the North Charleston area. And I think the site was originally going to be developed a couple years ago for a famous toastery, and then that fell through at the time. So now it's been picked up, and Mavis Tire is looking at a partial part of the site. And their submittal shows the signs that they're proposing for the facades of the building, and they're showing about 330 square foot of signage broken out over 3 sides of the building. Because 2 of those sides are less than 100 square foot, they're actually acceptable. They're not a problem. It's the remaining facade that's a little bit over 100 square feet. I think originally they were showing 134 square feet. I think they've probably revised it down to about 120 square feet. And that does not comply with the ordinance, which is prompting their need for variance. The sign ordinance specifies that sign faces shall not occupy more than 15% of the building and no more than 100 square feet. So again, those 2 sides that are under 100 square feet are fine. It's just this one that's over. This is in an area of the county that is abutting North Charleston. They do have the ability to annex into the city of North Charleston. North Charleston does also have sign regulations. They have that no more than 15% per facade, but they do not have a maximum sign area like Dorchester County does. So that 100 square foot does not apply within the city of North Charleston. This property is contiguous to the city of North Charleston. They are able to annex. But with regards to this request, the limitation on business signage does not really impact the ability to use the site. It's a preference, it's a visibility thing, but there's no impact on your ability to use the site for this particular, the use they're requesting for the Mavis Tire. Variances have those 4 questions that the state requires. They did provide their answers to those questions on the application form. And after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts. 1, that the lot in question is a site under development with a proposed plan for Mavis Tire. 2, all commercial properties within the unincorporated limits of the county are expected to adhere to regulations, the sign regulations. Adjacent properties may also be within the city of North Charleston, which has its own set of sign regulations. 3, the sign regulations do not restrict the use of the property and have been in place prior to construction within the county. And 4, the authorization of the variance to allow the increased size sign would likely not be a detriment to the adjacent properties. However, based on these facts, staff finds that the application does not meet the requirements for variance and therefore recommends denial of the request.
Any questions of the administrator?
I have 2. So we're talking specifically about the 73-foot sign band on the front?
It's just the one that's over all the bays there.
Okay. And so a second question is, what constitutes a sign? Is it because it's painted, the facade is painted, and then the lettering is?
It's just the area that's the wording. So that whole sign band area isn't part of it. It's the area where the wording, the lettering is.
Okay, so it just stops at that lettering, not the stripes going out?
Correct.
So just that lettering?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And how many square feet exactly was it over the allowable limit?
The limit is 100. I think the original proposal was for 134. The most recent revision that I've seen is a 120. So it's 20 square feet over.
And that's regardless of the size of the building?
Correct.
Okay, but there is a percentage?
There's a 15% cap.
Okay, but no, not to exceed?
Not to exceed 100 square feet.
And they're asking for 120?
Yes, sir.
Huh, okay.
Did you, and I know you said it, but it kind of caught me off guard. Do we know what the Charleston signage law is?
The city of North Charleston has that same 15% maximum, but no actual square foot limitation. So it's based on the size of the building, not capped at a certain limit like we are.
Do we know of historical precedents with this? I've been on board a couple years, and I don't think I've seen, a sign variance like this. Have we done this as a board before?
I think Walmart Neighborhood Market went several years ago at Bacon's Bridge and Dorchester Road for a sign variance. That's the only one that I'm familiar with during my tenure.
Okay, and that was the one on Bacon's Bridge, closer into more Dorchester County, more inside of Dorchester County.
Yes, sir.
I guess you could say. Okay.
You see the floodgates opening if we change this size for this one business, but all the businesses won't be the same?
Sign variances are kind of unique. I think some jurisdictions don't allow sign variances because it's not a technical hardship that limits your ability to use the property. It's more of an advertising mechanism. So it's a tricky one. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Any further questions of the staff? Is the petitioner present? No petitioner?
Yeah, no, he's on the phone. We have him on the phone. Mhm.
Mr. Reed, Chairman, in lieu to what Mr. Seeger said down there, we have had several, we have passed, we have never came back. The ordinance, we have passed several of them, no complaints.
Okay, so we have.
The sign on, yes.
Okay.
The one that we have in Dorchester County, not North Charleston. I mean, they're close to North Charleston. We've been doing our thing and been being fine.
Okay, yeah, because I know you've been on for a while.
Yeah, I know.
So just to clarify, y'all approved the Walmart Market
Yes.
for a larger area? Okay.
We did Walmart.
That's a big
Okay,
building.
so
And we did several others too. We have there.
how we gonna handle,
The applicant is here, he's online.
He's on the phone.
okay. So are we set where we can hear what he has to say, or?
Yep.
He's listening to us.
Sean, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Right.
Can you,
Yeah, we've got you on. You can go ahead and speak, and I have the document that you sent to me earlier today. So if you want me to scroll through that, I can do that for you.
yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. I would like to thank you all for allowing for this accommodation. We are in a unique situation, so I appreciate you all making this accommodation for me to present over the phone. And I just would like to start by saying we are excited about coming into this area. This property, the reason we're asking, I was listening to a little bit of the dialogue going back and forth, and on that front wall sign, if you could go ahead, and I believe it's next one, please. Page 3. If you look at the Mavis that we're talking about, it's the 100 square foot, over the 100 square foot allowance. If you look over, I've kind of broken it down, and it's the separation of the letters. If you look at Mavis tires and brakes, there's a reason that they have there's some separation between those particular signs for conspicuity, to allow people to be able to see it. But if you look at so really when you measure the sign area, the sign itself is approximately about 120 square feet in area. And then on that little right in the wall sign area, it's about 3,500, or 52.5 square feet in area. Really, that particular sign we're proposing is only occupying about 6.8% of that facade area. So we feel we're trying to meet the intent. I'm sorry, it's actually 3.85% of the facade area. So we're trying to meet that intent of the ordinance, and try to adhere to that. So we're focusing on one point of it. The other reason we're asking for the relief is due to the building setback from the right-of-way, and how you navigate this particular thoroughfare is there's just multiple turn lanes into the facility, and it allows you to the additional size and square footage on the wall sign allows for, especially if you're traveling westbound, you have to go down, make a U-turn, come back, you pass the property, come back, do the U-turn, come back down, and enter the property. You can also come from, it's the multiple use, cross-use access. So you have Waffle House, you have, they have that use, Dunkin' Donuts is in there, and Circle K. So you have a lot of traffic that can go through that area, which is smart planning that you can access. You don't have multiple ingress, egress, or curb cuts on a thoroughfare, but it does also impact traffic flow because of that. So we feel the additional square footage is minimal, and we meet the intent of the percentage coverage area significantly. We are asking for minor relief to allow us to increase that percentage, or just that the minor relief in the square footage to get additional wayfinding and provide additional wayfinding for people traveling that area. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sean, I have one question. I mean, really, in the grand scheme of things, it isn't apparent that you're asking for a whole lot, but you want to have more signage on the building, but yet you still also have a freestanding 20-foot sign at the road within the right-of-way, correct?
Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the petition? Hearing none, we declare the public hearing closed. Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll entertain a motion.
Do you want to open it up for public comment first?
Public comment, yes. Anybody here to speak? I'm sorry. Anyone here wish to speak for or against this project? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Thank you. Any comments by the committee before the report? Entertain a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for several reasons, but you know, the method of access for the property, the setback, the spacing is not, you know, it's not a dominant sign. It's, you know, it's spaced out. So I would make a motion to approve the request.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Motion dies lack of a second. Is there any other motion that be entertained at this time?
I make a motion to deny the request at staff's recommendation.
Motion made to deny request based on staff recommendation. Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion passes, therefore the project has been denied. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you all.
Now we look at 1622 Central Avenue.
Yes, sir. The next item for your consideration is, let me get there real quick. 1622 Central Avenue. Several of you may remember this one from a couple years ago. This property has been under plan for development for a number of years now. There had been a question previously about the buffer and possibly reducing the buffer, and they were able to work out that reduction without having to come before the board. They were able to work with the adjacent property owner to reduce the buffer by getting the appropriate permissions to do that. So the board has seen this item before, but ended up not making a motion on the request. At this time, as they have moved forward, their plans have not substantially changed over time while they've been going through the process, but what they've encountered is that the Dorchester County Water and Sewer Department has now placed an easement across their property to go from the adjacent site, which I believe is over by the Walmart, to be able to serve the mobile home park next door. They took the shortest course possible, which ends up coming in through the, middle part of the site, wrapping around the back of their proposed building and then down the side property line. And this property has a buffer, large transitional overlay buffer of 30 feet up here towards the front. They have a 50-foot easement, ingress-egress easement along this side of the property in order to be able to access the property to the rear. That was a condition of subdivision a couple of years ago. And then they have some buffer requirements along both adjacent properties. And so that really pinches their ability to redesign the site in order to be able to accommodate this easement and still maintain the buffer. So the applicant would like to be able to reduce the buffer. They're still proposing to plant the same amount of plantings required, but because they have this easement running along the side of the property right here, and you're not allowed to plant your buffer plants within the easement, what they're trying to do is in this dark area here, you can see where they're showing that they will plant those plantings, but, in this area right up here, the buffer gets pinched to essentially nothing. Although I still think that they would have that fencing requirement that they had previously agreed to. So they did provide their 4 answers to those questions that were provided to you for your consideration, but after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts. 1, that the lot in question, it's a rectangular lot, meets the minimum size requirements, but is hindered on 3 sides by easements. 2, other properties development without the restrictions of any easements, and the sewer easement has been recently imposed after the property had been purchased and design work substantially completed. 3, these easements combined with the buffer requirements for a commercial use against a residential property make it difficult to use the property as zoned. And then 4, the authorization of the variance to allow the reduction of the buffer depth while maintaining the buffer plantings would not be detrimental to the adjacent properties. And therefore, based on these facts, staff finds that the application meets the requirements for a variance and therefore recommends approval of the request.
Any members of the committee have any questions of the administrator?
Kira, do we know what the actual outcome, the deal was made, compromise was made for the fencing between this property and the mobile home?
Yeah, so they had that 25-foot type A buffer requirement, and they were able to reduce it down. Well, they were able to reduce the buffer depth down. So what they were trying to do was to put the buffer fence, which normally has to go, I think, to the interior of the property, but they wanted to be able to place it along the property line, so they had to get the adjacent property owner signatures in order to be able to do that. And they were eventually able to do that. So they were able to work with the property owner to place the fence along the property line instead of further into the property.
Because there was, for the record, a fence that was already on the property line.
There was.
Were they going to make any improvements to that
I
fence?
think that they were. I don't think they were just proposing to use the existing fence. I think they were going to put up their own, but they were going to place it right alongside the existing.
Do we know if that's taken place, or was that going to take place with construction?
I think that would take place towards the end of construction.
Okay.
Any other? Is the petitioner present? No. Okay. So the public hearing is open and the public hearing is closed. Lack of witnesses. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, agreeing with the county, I recommend that we approve the variance as requested.
Motion made to approve the variance. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion about it, committee members? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous, motion passed. 2055 Highway 15 North special exception for pine straw mulch business.
Yes, sir. This next request, it's a special exception request. The applicant is looking to establish a pine straw mulch business on the property. So it's about just over 4 acres. It's on Highway 15 North, 2055 Highway 15 North. It's across from that auto recycling salvage yard that's on 15, right near the intersection of 178. And we've seen a request in the past couple years for a piece of property a little bit further up this way in order to be able to do an auto sales lot on the property, and that was approved by the board, I want to say about 2 years ago. This one, there is an existing residential structure on the site, and I believe that the property owners they propose to live in it, but then they also want to be able to operate their pine straw business out of it. The pine straw business, is my understanding, is that they would get deliveries to them that they would then break out onto trailers and take out to install on as needed at locations. They would bring in plans for a prefab metal structure, I think, towards the rear of the property that they would use for that business, because they couldn't just hold it out in the open. They'd have to keep it within a structure. Otherwise, different regulations come into play regarding outdoor storage. Again, across the site is the Highway 15 Auto and Recycling Yard. The intersection of 15 North and Highway 78, it's designated in the comprehensive plan as a rural crossroads node, so it is intended to allow for commercial uses. The applicant has indicated within their application that the hours of operation will be limited to Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and the number of employees would be anticipated to be 3. This technically, I think, is close to a home-based business because they will be living on the property, but it doesn't qualify as a home-based business because it's not being conducted within the home, and also because they will have outside people who don't live on the property employed with them. And they did include in their site plan, although it's not on here because we couldn't get it to scan and project very well. It just didn't, the quality wasn't that good. But as I mentioned before, it does show just that one new structure towards the rear of the lot. They might have to make some adjustments to their plans in order to accommodate the type B 50-foot buffers. They have the space to be able to accommodate the buffers. They would just have to make sure that they met that requirement. And again, I don't think this would require, because it's just the one prefab structure, I don't think it would require technical review committee, but it would still require a building permit, which would trigger planning and zoning, site plan review and approval, as well as building approval. There is one occupied residential structure to the rear, but that one is separated by more than 300 feet of wooded area, so no buffer would be required in that area. Again, it's absence of controls, which does require special exception for any commercial uses. They have provided their answers to those 30 questions, and after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts. 1, that general business uses require a special exception in the AC district. 2, site plan review and approval will be required for the approval of the site plan prior to installation and operation. 3, a type B buffer would be required where adjacent to residential uses. 4, proposed hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. 5, Highway 15 North is a minor arterial. It is able to support this use, and the comprehensive plan future land use designation supports this business at this location. Therefore, based on these facts, staff recommends approval of the request with the understanding that final site plan review and approval by staff is still required.
Members of the committee have a question of the staff? Is this right by that, not far from that junkyard down there? Is that
Yeah,
right?
on the other side.
Across the street.
Right across the street where we did the car lot, right beside the car lot?
No, on the other side, in front junkyard.
Chair.
The big white house.
There's the salvage. There's the house
Oh, okay.
across the street.
That's what I thought. I got in the picture. I saw all those cars, but I couldn't
How
believe it.
about you? Yeah, she didn't want you to vote.
All righty. Is the petitioner present? No. The hearing is open and closed because there's no one to speak. Members of the committee, I hear a motion.
Mr. Chairman, based on the facts and staff recommendation, and also with the understanding that the final site plan, review plan has to be approved by staff, I make a motion that we approve it.
Motion made by Mr. White, seconded by Mr. Reeves. Any discussion?
Would, with this approval, would they be able to alter, if need be, the hours of operation? Personally, being a business owner, I think for selling this kind of stuff, Saturday might be a prime retail time for them, and didn't know if this would strictly confine them to Monday
I
through
don't
Friday.
think they sell it on the site. I think they have contracts with companies to come out and install at those locations. So I don't think there would be any traffic coming in to visit this
So
site.
this isn't going to be a retail site?
No, it wouldn't be retail. This is, the company is they're an installer, so they get the deliveries to this site that they then break out onto trailers, and then they go and install it wherever they have contracts for landscaping.
And I was looking into the answers to their questions, obviously, that there'd be no noise emanating, and that somewhat indicated to me that, I guess for the mulch, they would be doing no actual production of mulch. Again,
Yeah.
they would be, this would basically be just like a lay-down yard or facility?
Essentially, our understanding is that they'll have a large delivery, and they will unload it into that storage building that they'll be having. I think it's primarily just pine straw.
Okay.
And then they will then, as needed per job, load it onto trailers during the day, and take it out to the site and install it.
All right.
Mr. Dehy, to answer your question, I think what they do is, these new houses like Mount Pleasant, and these
Yes.
new houses, they go out and do the yard. They put the straw around the flowers in the yard. They bring
Gotcha.
it to that site, they go out and does that. And I think they live somewhere in Somerville, I think. I just want to get out in the country, more room.
That's fine. I've been around some, I just wanted to make sure this wasn't going to be a production facility for mulch. That equipment and machinery is.
I think you got too many. I think you got too many people around there let that happen.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Any further comments, questions? Clarification on your motion, Mr. White.
Yes, sir.
You made a motion to approve according to staff recommendations with their stipulations. You made some.
Yeah, and it's not even really a stipulation, it's more of an understanding that they still have to get the approval.
That's what I need to know. Okay. All right, all in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand.
Aye.
Unanimous, the motion passed. 6131 West Jim Bilton Boulevard, variance to allow expressway interchange sign outside the 1,000-foot allowed.
Yes, sir. This is another request for a sign variance. So signs have certain height limitations, and expressway signs are one type of sign that has a much higher height limit than other signs, reason being that you're coming in off of, I-95 or I-26, and you'd be able to see the sign. The distance allowed for a freestanding sign would be 1,000 feet from the center of the intersection. So it would actually be between the northbound lane and the southbound lane of I-95 along Highway 78. And then you measure out 1,000 feet, which gets you close to, but not quite to the property. So they fall outside that 1,000 radius from that intersection right there. The height difference is if you're a expressway interchange sign, you have 50 foot in height. If you're just a standard commercial sign, you get 16 feet in height. So the applicant's requesting relief from the section that limits them to that 1,000 foot, and they're asking to allow that outside of that 1,000 foot radius. With regards to the request, though, the property has been used as a gas station, fast food stop for years. It currently has a monument sign on site. The use of the property is not really impaired by the height restriction on the sign. Other commercial properties nearby, they're likely able to use higher signs because they fall within that 1,000 foot radius, or because they're located within the town of St. George, which does have a different set of regulations. I'm not sure what St. George's regulations are, but the property is contiguous to the town. They are able to annex if St. George's are in fact better for their purposes. Again, it's a variance, so they've got those 4 hardship test questions that they need to answer. Those were attached and included in your packets. And after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts, is that 1, the lot in question, it's a 4-acre commercial site. It's been used in its current capacity for a number of years. 2, other properties nearby are within the town limits of St. George and are regulated by a different set of ordinances. 3, the sign regulations do not restrict the use of the property, which has operated in its current capacity for a couple of years. And then 4, the authorization of the variance to allow the increased sign height, it likely would not be a detriment to adjacent properties. But based on these facts, staff finds that the application does not meet the requirements for variance and therefore recommends denial of the request.
Any members of the committee have questions of the administrator? Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, how far out of that 1,000 radius are they? Do we know?
It's yeah, I can pull that up real quick on the GIS. It's close. I mean, we measured it out with the applicant before, let me get the TMS number in here. And it wasn't really all that far off.
I mean, if it's all this shaded area, I mean, technically they're,
No, the shaded area is the town limits of St. George.
Ah.
That's what you're seeing on there.
Oh, okay.
It's close to the town limits.
So I think we can find out from the applicant probably, but, so they could, so St. George would allow this, the town?
I'm not sure.
okay.
Yeah, they have their own set of sign regulations, but I'm not familiar with what their regulations are. So in order to get to their piece of property, it's roughly about 1,050 feet. So you're 50 feet outside that radius.
And that's a hotel in front of, on the side between them and 95?
This right here, yes.
Okay.
To answer your question, I think the town of St. George are using our sign ordinance. The town of St. George?
Oh, right, okay.
I think they're using our sign. Georgia,
They're following us.
they're following us.
Okay. And do we know,
I worked on several committees over there with them.
okay. Do we know where on the site they're planning on putting it? I guess we can.
Yeah, I mean, right up in this area here, closer towards the front of the property, closer towards I-95.
Okay, so on 78.
Yes, on 78.
On 78 closest enough.
Yes, on their property.
Right.
and you say the 1,000 feet is judged from the center median of 95?
It's from the center, yeah, so it ends up being between the two, the northbound and the southbound lane, because they're separated here, so it falls within the middle between those two.
Do we know if there are any other signs along 78 that are of this size?
I believe there are other expressway
There are.
signs.
They are in the town limits.
Any further questions, Administrator? Is the petitioner present?
Yes.
Please step forward. Move your mask long enough to introduce yourself.
Justin Wells.
Please raise your right hand.
Yes.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please tell us what's going on.
So basically, I mean, as you see on the map here where the GIS aligns with the edge of the property, I mean, we've had a few different measurements on the property. We've had engineers out there, surveyors, and pretty much the 1,000 feet mark almost comes up to the edge of the property there. So, the variance that we're asking is if, we can step outside of that 1,000 feet mark, maybe 20 feet, to put the high-rise sign in to gain visibility for that gas station.
Does the committee have any questions of the petitioner?
And I mean, what we are proposing is a 50 to 60-foot high-rise sign. It has to be 50 foot. The max height for this sign can be 50 foot above the freeway elevation. So that would be the max height that we could go, would be 65 feet total.
Is that,
Members of the committee?
is that height elevation from the deck of the overpass?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, the main issue is our sign out there now is only about 12 feet, which is maybe, tall as this projector
Sure.
here. And since there is two businesses on the property, the Taco Bell there has the taller sign, which can be, approximately 16 feet. But with our Shell gas station, it can only be about 12 feet.
Will the signage be co-joined for the partnership, or would it just advertise the station?
We could advertise both, yes. Taco Bell and
And
the
if I'm not mistaken, from looking at the map here, it's probably not 500 feet across the street, 750 feet, there's a water tower?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
so, yes, sir.
Oh, I know, okay.
Yes,
I mean,
water tower.
the traffic kind of flows toward the opposite side of the freeway since there is so many businesses there with the Waffle House and, Flying J. So we're just kind of trying to promote it this way as much as we can.
So what you're trying to do is get your sign just high as the Flying J sign. Not quite high as the Flying J sign, but
Yeah.
level with the town signs. That's
Pretty
what they're
much,
trying
right.
to do.
I mean, everybody on this side has these tall signs.
I know,
We just-
I know, I understand.
We just kind of want to maybe bring them this way a little more if possible. And I mean, maybe getting off the I-95 south here, you can see the gas canopy, but you can't see the monument sign out there. Now coming off I-95 north, we just have no visibility there. So we're just,
I know what you're talking about.
trying to stay in.
Did you want to show them any of the stuff that you had
I mean,
brought?
these are just, things that the city sent over, some
I can show you what the sign might look like,
Please.
if you're interested.
So while he's doing that, the water tower is on the other side of the road, right?
Water tower's in the front, on the other side of the road, yes.
Okay, okay, all right, I know.
On the side of Winningham.
Sure.
I apologize for my.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, you can just give it to somebody who know I'm familiar with that. I know.
Now, those measurements in there is what, Mary J. Blatchford at Dorchester County sent me.
They sound to be high.
The GIS is fairly accurate, but she said the property line's about the 1,000-foot mark, so.
To answer what you had asked me, Mr. Reese, their signs will be the same height as the town signs in the town limit, the motels and all of them. All those signs will be the same height now. If that store been in the town, in St. George town limit, it would have passed this because it's the same height, same thing.
Right, there's a picture in there we drew in what it might look like on the street view. It's kind of, you got all these other signs and you see this one drawn in.
And I mean, we can get engineer drawings, we'll pass it through zoning and sign permitting, but we just wanted to make sure it's something you guys are going to approve or not first. So.
Yeah, look at that eyesore.
Yep.
I was trying to get that.
Would you like these back, or?
I mean, you can keep them or I can take them. Either
That's
way.
fine.
I made
Either
some
way.
copies there.
Any further questions of the petitioner? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else wish to speak? Hearing none, public session is closed.
Ken?
I have it. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask a question. I mean, we're granting a variance for, like a 50-foot, intrusion or outside of the 1,000? Or are we just saying anywhere on this property could go?
I think, let me see, if the application, I don't have it in front of me.
If you don't mind.
Did it specifically call out on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's apparent, your property edge is just outside the 1,000 feet, so.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming, well, I don't want to assume, with the permitting you would have to get from the town or the county or whatever be the governing body for that, would this be put more towards the front corner of the property? I mean, with the way the property is laid out, would you take up parking spaces to bring it as close to that 1,000 feet?
Yeah, we would bring it as close to the 1,000-foot mark as possible. There's a hotel entrance right there, so we're going to go into that. We're going to
Sure.
We're going to stay in the grassy area right outside the 1,000. We'll follow all the right-of-ways and everything like that, but that's the area we're proposing here.
Okay, so it is there.
So there, yeah, okay, so in just what I'm reading is that they're asking to increase 50 feet from the 1,000.
Right, that was,
So what I'm saying is it is specific, what your request is. It's a little bit more specific. It's not just, hey, just put it wherever.
Yeah, we won't put it,
You're going to keep it within that 1,050 square feet.
Would it go in the vicinity where the Taco Bell sign sits at the corner of the property?
Most likely, we would remove that Taco Bell sign or one of the signs on the property.
But basically that kind of grassy area where you're right next to the entrance to the motel, like you said, it seems like, I mean, is that where you plan to put it?
Yes, I think on the sign, for the sign ordinance for Dorchester County for 40,000 square feet or less building, you can only have two signs.
Yeah.
So,
The screen down, Ms. Williams.
Busted.
Put it on the screen there.
stay in that ordinance, and yes, that's
Right.
what
Right.
so this is, the request is to extend that 1,000-foot radius by 50 feet.
This is the area where you propose to put the sign?
Roughly, yes. I mean, the GIS, I'll be honest, it's a little
it's not
off to the
specific.
right away there.
Sure.
But basically,
I mean, but yeah, we're just that vicinity.
yes, sir.
Yeah, that's fine. That's close enough. It's not government work here.
At this time, the chair would entertain a motion.
Despite the findings of fact by the county, I don't think that by granting this variance, it would go against the existing properties, or it would be out of character for where they want to put the sign. So I would like to make a motion to grant the applicant the approval to put the sign up.
I second.
Been made to grant, is there a second?
I second.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, my point was only that it be in that corner. I don't know if we need to specify that or because of the application, that's where it's going to be. So that was my point earlier.
Can staff get with the applicant to further identify the approval and basically, convey where staff is approving for this sign to be put on the property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, sir, isn't there a little flag out there now? Isn't there a flag out there? A little flag, a little marking where they can put that sign at? Okay, that may be a road marking. I see a different flag.
The administrator identify the location.
Okay. I'd like to amend the motion to approve the signage with the approval being given with the staff's proper identification of the placement of the sign.
Is there a second on the amendment?
I'll second the.
Second the amendment, any discussion on the amendment? For clarification, your motion, your amendment states that the staff will approve the location of the sign.
Yes, based off of our conversation and depiction of what we've discussed here.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, raise your right hand. Amendment passes. Now voting on the main motion, all in favor of the main motion, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
101 Camel Thicket Road.
Yeah, I gotta get out.
Yes, sir. This item was a special exception request for an auto shop and a car dealership. This one has been withdrawn by the applicant, so it is no longer on the agenda for consideration tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
184 Ridge Road.
Yes, sir. And then again, similar to the first item on the agenda, this was one of those ones that there was an error with the public notice requirements. So this one will be pushed off till the special meeting next week. Correct.
Okay. All right, at this time, do you have any old business?
Nope. Time to go home, Mr. Chairman.
Time to go home, you're right. Is there any
Yes.
new business?
Without haste, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Just, before we do that, I would just like to thank Ms. Williams for sitting in tonight. So we appreciate it. Thank you for your service tonight. It's a long meeting, the longest one I've been to. So with that, all in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye and good night.
I gotta go get the grandkids.
There you go.
Anybody watching that thing,